Welcome back to the Rollup TV. Today is Monday, September 22nd. Happy Monday. It is the end of summer. Summer is now over. If you've been paying attention, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, summer is over. It is time to be in the winter. The fall. Robbie has taken a flight to Korea. So he is not going to join us today. He is going to join us for the rest of the week, though. So stay tuned because he will be joining us, but just not today. I think he just got in and he's a little bit tired. So we have a fun stream today, a good lineup. We've got the 𝘗𝘯𝘷𝘦𝘴 team together to talk about what they're doing with their kind of AI yield farming, AI DeFi-based agent frameworks that they've built out. Then we have Michael, the CEO of 𝘂𝘯𝘷𝘦𝘴, which is going to be a spicy one, guys. I've got my coffee ready. They've just launched their token. It's trading at 6 billion. They've just launched a DAT before the token even went live, and people are not happy about it. They have questions. They're wondering what's going on. Our fund actually invested in OG like freaking 2 years ago and have watched them kind of grow, and they've done different directions, and Michael's kind of steered the ship, and now this is where they've settled. So interesting to talk to Michael. And then we've got the one and only Dan from CMS, who's a good friend of the show and a recurring guest since our 2020 era. So guys, it should be a fun show today. I'm pretty stoked on it. And yeah, we have an amazing lineup. So while we're looking at and waiting for our guests to come, the market has chosen to screw us and dump hard overnight.
Mic check.
Which is funny because it's always the low liquidity Sundays
let me try
that
to connect
people
again.
Get wrecked on, and lo and behold, we had one of the biggest liquidation events of the entire, since 2023, I believe, across Bitcoin or across ETH and Sol. I think Bitcoin since June is what I read on Twitter. And so, yeah, look, I don't know what to tell you guys. If you're using leverage, don't use leverage. If you have no idea what you're doing, don't freaking, don't do it. And just, guys, hold it together, So, I'm a little bit worried, but what was kind of annoying is that there was this competition over the weekend with Hyperliquid that led Hyperliquid to get dumped on, while the rest of the market kind of held up just fine because there was this Aster coin launch and there was this other freaking coin launch and everyone was all fired up about it. It's just kind of silly. So guys, the market's just opened now. Stoked on it. And yeah, get excited to have our first set of guests up, which is going to be Rank from 𝘗𝘯𝘷𝘦𝘴 and our guy right side from Pendle, Mr. Right side only. Yeah, should be good. 𝘂𝘯𝘷𝘦𝘴 token launch, big freaking day for the community. Launched at $6 billion FTV for 𝘂𝘯𝘷𝘦𝘴. Pretty insane. And yeah, guys, here's where we are. We're back on the Rollup TV. We got another amazing week. Last week was insane. It was insane. It was an absolute treat to be on the stream. We had Jeremy Allaire. We had freaking CMS. We had, who else did we have? We had so many good ones. We had the entire Ethereum Foundation. We had just tons of great teams. We had other investors. We had Dan from Nascent. We had the Pantera guys. We had, who else do we have? No, we just had such a great lineup last freaking week. I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be a part of this. I'm glad to be a part of the Rollup TV. We pushed some of the technical stuff next week. This week, we have another amazing slate of guests. We're going to be streaming in the morning this week, guys. So that's going to be the reality. Robbie's phoning in from Korea. He's going to be at like a co-work space, 24/7 co-work. We're getting him set up there. And then we're going to have myself here from Florida. I'll be calling in on the stream starting, around this time, 9 a.m.-ish. And yeah, really looking forward to our first set of guests. Again, we've got the 𝘰𝘳𝘃 guys, we've got the 𝘗𝘓𝘵𝗏 guys, and we've got the OG guys as our first set of guests today. So looking forward to it. Should be a fun stream. And yeah, we're going to get those guests up in a second and get them in when they are ready. And yeah, just sharing that with them, making sure they get up and active. Man, what else happened over the weekend, guys? A ton of shit. Look, I put out a tweet that was like, don't chase the beta token in crypto. Like, never chase the beta version of the token. I was talking about Aster. I put out a tweet about Hyperliquid today. Aster is like hype, but for people who haven't lost their virginity. That one was actually taken from a friend in a group chat. I think it's true. I think that buying the beta token is just an easy way to get wrecked. I think that's why the market's dumping. Although Aster's pumping. Aster's at $1.70. It's up 17% today. Hype's down. So, I mean, look, I don't know what to tell you guys. I really don't know what to tell you guys. It's Aster and AVNT. Another one is at 218. Nice. That thing's been on a tear. If you bought that thing on Saturday at $1, you're up 100%. Or now more than 100%. So I just fumbled these both. I had Chain Yoda yelling at me about them in my Twitter saying, don't marry your bags. And here we are. So I got to figure out what I
to go. Can you hear me well?
I'm not really worried about it. Man, but look at Fartcoin. Oh my God. Thing was at $1 or was that 95 cents on Thursday last week. It's down 35% since. It's down to 62 cents today. What a reckoning on that one. Pump is back down to 6/10, so it's reasonable pullback. I'd say it's probably that pullback's probably complete. It nearly did a 50% pullback from where it topped out at. Look, guys, we'll see where this ends up. Bitcoin looks weak, but could easily hold here. If not, it really looks rough considering we got one last high push on August, and now we've been kind of going sideways for a bit. We'll see. We'll see, guys. I'm not gonna make any judgment calls. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I know where things are going. But that's Avantis and Aster. I think those two things should deserve your attention. I'm not playing them. I'm not playing that game. Maybe I'm missing out on some gains. I mean, I'm sure I had the, I'm sure I had the wrong setup here. I'm sure that I had the better idea would have been probably going into Aster as soon as CZ tweeted. I didn't, I don't know. I didn't get a chance to do it. I didn't see it. I thought it was silly. And I paid the price. Not only that, it's just like, guys, I mean, it's the weekend. I'm streaming 5 days a week now, working around the clock on the business side. It's just getting a chance to actually do any sort of real sustainable trading, and then actually with size on new pairs and trying to actually navigate that is just too much work. Like, how am I going to throw like 50 or 100 grand into freaking a new Aster token? And I'm just going to be watching it all weekend long. And sure, I would have made like 50 or 100K. It would have been unreal. But like, I don't know, man. The thing that I am worried about is just the trend of these two tokens, AVNT and Aster, and even Justin Sun's Sun one trending, in the upwards direction, and the Hyperliquid chart trending in the downwards direction. A little bit worried about that. We'll see though, guys. We'll see. It's the morning. It's 9:30. We'll play some quick tunes, just something light in the background for me. Get fired up. We got the 𝘰𝘳𝘃 team coming. We got the 𝘗𝘓𝘵 team coming. And yeah, should be a good freaking week. Little Ocean Alley.
Test.
Alrighty, guys.
All right, let me try this one. Mic check. Okay, I think. Yeah, I changed to mobile. I think it's even better now.
Hey.
I have my MacBook on, but mobile is a lot better. I don't hear the feedback, so I think it's pretty easy
So we got
to
Pendo, we
hear you
got
guys now.
𝘬𝘳𝘊. We're gonna be talking about AI
It's way better.
agents. They are some of our first like AI agents kind of DeFi integration project coming. Should be good. Should be a fun one. And then we're gonna roll into the main event or the main events, which are our boys from OG and CMS Holdings. Boom. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Hope you guys are having a good day. Hope you guys aren't too worried about the market. Can't control it. You got to do what you got to do. And yeah, guys, big week ahead for the roll up. I won't spoil it, but we've got quite a bit coming, and pretty excited about it. All right. All right, we gonna get them up in a sec. Getting ready here. It's simple. It's simple. You know, man, it's simple. It's simple. It's simple. You don't have to not be there. Some Portuguese music. I don't know if you guys know, but I spent a lot of time in Brazil last couple years, and I've picked up Portuguese pretty well. I've come to like the Portuguese music as well. The Brazilian culture is very like open and a vibe, and the music is like kind of like that too. This is like a little Drake mix around it. It's simple. It's simple. Wow, Plasma to launch global neobank. Wow, Plasma won. Damn. Wow, John Chard proposal to reduce hyperliquid supply by 45%. What? Burn all hype currently held in the AF. Burn all hype acquired by the AF. Remove the max supply cap. Revoke authorization for all unminted hype currently allocated. Wow, what a crazy proposal. Insanity. I'm going to ask if he wants to come on stream. Already. We got the 𝘬𝘳𝘊 guys. We got the Pendo guys set up in the back. We're calling in from all over the world. We're going to get them up, and we're going to get fired up. So let's get them up here, guys, and let's have a stream. Rank, right side. Good to have you guys. Welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here, man. Thank you for having us.
Yep.
Great
Thanks
to
for
see
having
you
us.
guys. Rank, I think it's your first time on. Right side, I know we've spoken a bit before. We'd love just a quick intro, guys. What are you guys building now? What are you guys building together? What is 𝘬𝘳𝘊? Rank, you can kick us off, and we'll go to you, right side, and let's have some fun, guys.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Awesome.
Yeah, my name is Rench. I'm the CEO of 𝘬𝘳𝘊, and 𝘬𝘳𝘊 exists to make a real shift in how we consume finance, how we approach finance. Today, most of the people open a wallet and meet an endless pit of confusion: keys, balances, chains, tickers, all of those things. No cadence, no guidance, and finance very much feels like a panel of clunky buttons right now. And at 𝘬𝘳, our thesis is that it feels more like an intent expressed once and carried out continuously. And what people need right now is a trusted companion that understands what they want to achieve and quietly sets their money to work for them. And we build on-chain agents that translate human intent into action, continuous, non-custodial, with explanation, where you set your financial objectives and system does the rest, and your money works for you and not against you.
Awesome. Right side, what are you guys cooking at Pendle lately? Give us the quick refresh.
Yeah, for sure. So we're continuously building Pendle V2. So far, we're able to do our facilitating around 13 billion TVL. We reached a 70 billion trading volume milestone just for this week. So a lot of good stuff happening. We have a few products and upgrades that are happening for this week. For the Boros end of thing, we have our mainnet launch announced last week. So far, it's doing pretty good. We are able to reach around 70 million in notional trading volume for trading interest rates, funding rates in particular. So a lot of exciting things. On the AI side, happy to be working with 𝘬𝘳 for automating of the fixed yield experiences that you can do in Pendle. So yeah.
Okay, guys. So I have been thinking about, so for context, I did so many on-chain transactions in 2020 to 2023 that like my accountant is charging me over 20K USD just to go back and do it all. And it's an absolute pain in the ass. And so the one thing that I thought about in the last 18 months more than anything is like, how can I have something that I can just like write to on my phone and then have execution happen on chain, likely in like a hot wallet, not necessarily one of my hardware wallets with like, sizable amounts of capital on it, maybe something that's just more of an experimental wallet, etc. And I just kept thinking like we need this kind of on-chain assistant type of technology. When you guys are looking at your user bases, I don't know how you're communicating with them, whether it's in Discord or support or kind of like surveys, whatever it is. Like, is this the use case that you're seeing for yields for DeFi? Is it really just as simple as I want to have an assistant or some sort of like automated exposure to the market in an easy way instead of having to like log onto my computer, click all these buttons and move all these things? Is it really that simple, or am I missing something here?
Yeah, I can go first. It's really that simple. That's what everybody wants, and that's what everybody suffers from.
Yeah.
And very much the reality is that the financial markets have exceeded in like what we can comprehend and what we can execute in real time, and we are in need of a more not necessarily just intelligent but more diligent entity to execute these financial operations on behalf of us. And besides just like the overhead of like the taxes and the reporting and the time wasted to it, as humans we are also quite terrible at being profitable, which is like the most important thing in finance. We are emotionally driven. The markets don't sleep, but we do. We need to spend time with our families, and the market doesn't really care about all of those things. So what is the missing component here? It's very much a companion that understands where you want to get to and takes you there autonomously. It's kind of like a self-driving car for finance. And that's what we're building towards at 𝘬𝘳. And this is very much why we partnered with Pendle.
Yeah, I agree on Reg's point. I think currently in the DeFi scene, it's a bit complex with things and opportunities that are available for retail institutions, but also DeFi native users. There are a lot of clicks. There's a lot of buttons to go around. There's a lot of strategies that you can work around with, but it doesn't encompass to where it makes everything simple. So there's definitely a use case or a solution to make everything easily available, whether you want to earn different type of yields from like blue chip assets or maybe from stable coins. It's making one click of a button, allowing anyone to earn like maybe a fixed yield in DeFi with just one simple app. So it's something that we want to drive the opportunity with moving forward, and working with 𝘬𝘳 with their AI like protocol is really helpful for like bringing this opportunity to the next level.
Yeah, so you guys have built this Pulse product. You guys filled a $3 million cap in 3 hours, which was incredibly fast. And and now you're kind of able to use Pulse to handle rollover, automated rebalancing across some of the PT markets. From your perspective there, right side, how do you see Pulse managing risk in the Pendle markets? And maybe Rank can chime in here around expiration dates, right? Because first of all, let me just put it out there that if you understand PT and YTs and DeFi, you are an experienced DeFi user. So our community listening right now and Rank's community listening right now probably don't really fully get it the way that you guys do. So let me just give that context before you answer. But how will Pulse manage some of the risk around some of these expiration dates, liquidity crunches, unexpected market swings like today? How do you guys think about actually managing user capital well and safely when it comes to these types of situations?
Yeah, definitely agree on those points, right? Given so much risk that are happening with just, getting fixed yields on PDs, there's a lot of things that you need to consider, the maturity dates, the liquidity, and also rolling over to new opportunities that is available on Pendle. So yeah, I'll just give a bit of context. For Pendle, we split the yield-bearing asset into PT and YT, but there's a lot of education that needs to be done still for actually defining what is PT and YT. So what we're doing with 𝘰𝘳 is focusing on the fixed yield aspect, which is the PT, that allows users to get a fixed yield or like a guaranteed yield on different types of assets. With the tech of 𝘰𝘳 that is fully launched now, it allows users to abstract some of the complexities and like the risk factors that you did mention. One is like PTs have a maturing date and they mature over time. But with 𝘰𝘳, it allows to roll over easily without thinking about the next maturity date and finding the next opportunity for your assets to earn more yield. So this is something that I personally am looking for because like I'm a big PT fan, have been like, farming yields, getting fixed yields on stablecoins and ETH. But the thing is that you can't easily monitor your portfolio like every day, right? But with this, it abstracts the additional step to understand when the maturity of your asset will be, and just allow like the AI agent to do all of these things for you. In terms of the liquidity crunch, right? There is well, I'm excited for that upcoming update. I'm not sure if I can share a bit more, but AI agents can be modified and can be redefined on how you want it to go. So liquidity crunch can be mitigated with AI agent, but I won't share much. It's a bit of an alpha. Let Rank do it.
Yeah, I mean, it is very much like towards expansion of what we do at Pulse. Like we launched it on Arbitrum and it's just ETH PT markets and the 3 million cap rolled up very fast, as you mentioned, Andy. But the next is like doing more assets than ETH, stables PT markets, and then cross-chain PT markets, and all for both ETH and stables. And that expands the playing field of the agent to a degree where the liquidity crunch that right side is mentioning can be mitigated completely, because your agent will not just pick a PT market for you, but it will create a portfolio of PT markets for you, understanding where you can squeeze the most yield from every single dollar deployed. And you mentioned at the beginning when you passed us the mic that the only 1% understands like the PT markets and the YT markets. And what we always believe with right side is that I sincerely I'm not saying it because he's here, but I told him this as well. Like for me, Pendle is the best DeFi product out there. And why should we only allow 1% to use it? What if like 100% of whoever wanted like fixed yield can get fixed yield through Pendle? And there is like an immense market impact in terms of what liquidity is, how it flows, who can get the best for it under the answer of that. And Pulse turns Pendle into one-click fixed yield machine that anyone can access at any scale. And what we do is, democratize it to anyone. So sophisticated yield should not be just for the 1%, but anyone who wants it can get it at any time. And that has been the driving force behind building Pulse with Pendle.
Yeah, Rank, I got to ask you, in the last couple of years, we've seen iterations of fixed income products hit the market in DeFi, specifically around fixed yields for stables, fixed yields for different tranches of risk. Frankly, the market has written them off as too boring, too safe, not interesting. How do you kind of think about the fixed yield market, the fixed income market on chain, now that we're entering a world where there's a lot more sophisticated players who have raised crypto treasury companies, who want to put this capital to use on chain, who want to see some sort of sustainable, reliable forecasting and models? Do you anticipate that your user base for these types of products on both your ends has shifted away from the degens looking for 20% on stables to more, reliable, longer term, larger capital allocators?
Yeah, I think as DeFi evolves and matures, the boring stuff is going to be very much in demand.
I agree.
think
It's all the unsexy stuff right now.
I mean,
it's all
our agents are boring by design. They do what they're supposed to do, and they do it in the best way. And fixed yield is definitely, there's like undeniable demand for fixed yield, as Pendle is where he is today. Vitalik's latest post about low risk yield can be like a cornerstone of Ethereum is very much a reality. And as the DeFi's audience grows and changes, these kind of things are very much going to be in demand. What I think is the future of finance is an evolution from just being obsessed about buying an asset, an aesthetic position, and going towards buying a flow. A flow meaning if you buy an asset, you're in a static position, it just sits there exposed to market swings, waiting for you to rebalance and move it to when conditions change. And again, we go back to finance being this clunky, super overhead thing. Buying flows instead of assets means that, yes, you say you want to grow your savings, but keep risk low. You can set a flow that says start safe and recycle yield into growth. And the agent takes your deposit, routes it into stables, routes it into fixed yield positions. And as yields accumulate, it automatically reallocates them and goes maybe towards YT positions. But all of those things are done in a flow, a dynamic flow tailored to your intent and profile instead of a static asset. And I think that's what future of finance looks like. Money that works for you while you sleep. And it sounds like a clear explanation instead of a chart with no context or like 10,000 chains. And it feels like the moment where you stopped, writing every single text and every single idea that you have. And when you started using like ChatGPT to draft ideas, to draft messages, but the drafts are not text, but they are trades, they are allocations, protections, carried out exactly as intended with 100% verifiability. So like making this autonomous policy driven money the default for every wallet, every person, I think that's where the future lies. Buying a flow, a financial flow, and not an asset, and the agent executes. And for the first time, like finance is on your side and on your favor because it is working for you.
In that lens, then, right side, if you agree, you ought to think that Pendle as a product is really, really positioned for this new kind of thought process with regards to owning assets. Because effectively, if you're using Pendle, you're basically using the flows. Like that is the entire purpose. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I agree on that point. Definitely, like the DeFi market has started to mature. Initially, fixed yields is not really a thing because how DeFi summer started, right? With insane 1,000% APYs that you can easily farm in a week or two. That makes people like insanely rich really fast. But now those things have started to mature. We are seeing stable like yields across the board. However, I do think there's still opportunity to generate high amounts of yield through the underlying like yield like mechanic, right? So this is where Pendle comes in, that splits between the floating yields that is a bit more of like the degenerate side that people can farm either like underlying yield or points, and there is the fixed yield side. At the moment, we are very strong in stable coins. We have a lot of partners that are generating up to maybe 20% fixed yield. Those are the things that are actually getting being attractive with institutional flows. So
Mm-hmm.
our capital inflows are coming in because they see there is an opportunity to get a fixed deal with the stablecoin. I do think that there is going to
Right
be
side, real
more
quick.
opportunities out there.
Real quick,
Mhm.
is this in
Yeah.
Asia particularly that you're seeing these flows? Is it with your BD team on the ground in Singapore, in Korea? How are you
Yeah.
getting these guys to get in independent? And then are they just happy to deposit on the public markets that you have, or do you have to build something special for them?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of opportunities not only in Asia, but there are also funds and family offices across the world. Our current view is, since most of our team is in Asia, right? There's a big opportunity in the Chinese market for DeFi.
Okay.
Most of our users in DeFi are like from the Chinese folk, and they're finding opportunities from big offices with fixed yield. That's where they park their funds. It's pretty much a stake and forget kind of strategy that they have for fixed yields in Pendle,
Yep.
which we provide an avenue of. So the only thing that kind of has a concern with is actually rollovers and like end of maturity with this different types of pools. So this is where like an opportunity can arise for Giza, allowing these funds and institutions to have that same stake and forget, but in a longer time period.
Got it. Okay, guys, I got to ask you both. I invented this term revenue meta. It's really silly, but it makes sense. Everyone's trying to make money now. Welcome to the real world, guys. I'm glad you got your tokens launched in the last couple of years before this happened. Good for your pockets. But if you want to survive, you have to have a good answer to this question. And I'll start with you, Rank. I feel like it's going to be harder from your side due to just how early you are. But clearly, the buyback idea is taking crypto Twitter by storm. Everyone likes buybacks. It's arguable whether that's a good strategy or not for tokens. When you're so early investing into the business, like, when I look at it from my perspective, it's like doing buybacks and buying back the Rollup token at this point, instead of just hiring better people to scale this thing, would make zero sense. And so I think it's like likely a similar outcome for a lot of early stage teams, right? When it comes to generating revenue, our revenues aren't enough to make any sustainable impact on a Rollup token compared to what we could do if we scale. And so I think a lot of teams are in this boat, but they've seen Hyperliquid, they've seen Pump.Fund, they've seen all these new perp dexes going crazy, which I'd love to get your guys' takes on as well. But Rank, when you're thinking about Giza token and the performance, as well as just broadly the entire mechanism design of Giza, how do you create a sustainable revenue mechanism such that Giza has enough flows that investors can look at it and see and forecast out and place large size bets into the Giza token? These institutional guys, they want to see flows, they want to understand how this thing could grow. What is your strategy? What is the state of affairs there?
I think that's a great question, and I think it's also like this revenue meta that you came up with. I think it's in the favor of like market discipline, because we have gone, as you mentioned, quite long without any kind of discipline, without just like YOLOing into a lot of tokens. Like the past 20 months or so, saw a bunch of quote unquote AI tokens, quote unquote agent tokens that were neither AI or neither agents. And now they're like 99% down, and they're down for a reason. And I think if we can enforce some market discipline, if we are looking at projects with growth, with actual usage, that's in the benefit of people who are doing the actual work. So we are very much for it. Giza agents, they have a core singular capability, which is digesting vast amounts of real-time on-chain data and making split-second decisions on where the capital should be allocated to be the most profitable, to be the most productive. This core capability in return creates what we call active capital that moves for you, that moves on from like total value locked. But how do we unlock total value is what we are going for. How do we create an intelligent, always on capital? And this capital work towards like two sides of revenue of Giza, and both they streamline to the value appreciation of the token. On one part, we monetize the management of capital. This is where the agent takes a certain amount of fee from the generated yield for whatever use case, or if it's a DCA agent, it takes micro fees from every transaction. It's very much business case oriented. And the fees from there goes back to buying back the token, to providing protocol on liquidity, or to making critical hires, as you mentioned, Andy. And the second part of the revenue is from the deployment of capital, that the Giza agents manage and create, which is currently 100 times more productive than usual capital. And this is where the concept of swarm finance comes in, which we introduced lately, where protocols like Arbitrum can put incentives for the users to have a heightened APR. And this is what we are piloting with Pulse and Pendle, where users can now go to pulse.xyz and get 13-14% yield on your ETH, because there's an incentive layer behind it. And this creates the second revenue stream of Giza. And we take a fee from those incentives, and those also goes back to buying back the token, to protocol-owned liquidity, and to hires, to audits, and all of those things. So we are very much growth-driven. We are very much revenue-driven. We are very much token-driven. And everything happens under the Giza token, which we are super excited about.
Yeah, I think that's another good focus too, or a good frame, right? And I appreciate you explaining that. And maybe it's small now, but as you scale, these numbers can grow. And I think that's what people want to see. All that matters for investors right now, I feel like, is like, okay, team is actively thinking about generating revenue, and is thinking about how this is going to affect the token. Like, we've been in this model where, due to the regulatory environment, we were like, it was almost like a taboo to care about the token, because it was like you like couldn't really, because you had too many rules. So I think that actually you bring a good point of actually really like prioritizing that. I mean, I don't think the token is the product guys are right, but I think they had something right in terms of at least the frame of thought. Right side, I'll pass it to you to close us out here. What is the state of affairs when it comes to Pendle's revenue, when it comes to the Pendle token? How are you guys thinking about it internally?
Yeah, for sure. But before that, just want to say appreciate Rench's PT, ETH, and Giza. I was able to get personally like 12.55% APY, but it's pretty neat. But yeah, going back to the revenues, right? We have a different view as well with Pendle. So far, we're able to get like an annualized of 79 million in revenue for Pendle V2, which is pretty neat. We're able to be a profitable protocol ever since inception. However, we're still in the side of building more and growing our product for both Pendle V2 and Boros. I think buybacks make a lot of sense once you're able to get the proper product market fit to where you can generate high amount of revenues that balances both product growth, scaling operations, and having a percentage of that for buybacks. Having a high amount of buybacks at the moment, while like most of the crypto protocols are just startups scaling and finding product market fit, I feel doesn't really make sense yet, and would be like a critical point to where they're not able to fulfill like some of the KPIs, milestones that they want to do. So it's a balance on how much you want to scale your product, how much are you looking to drive more demand with product market fit with your products, and then see from there. On our end, personally, we are also looking at the buyback mechanic, right? It's quite known. It's a very big marketing game as well. It's quite popular for people who are, investing in tokens and whatnot. But we are at the time where we want to build both Pendle V2 and Boros to greater heights. So definitely we're considering that. But yeah, maybe just look forward to what we're gonna share more in the future.
All right, guys, just want to get your take. I know we're a little over here. I want to be respectful of your time. What are your takes on this perp dex thing that we saw over the weekend? We saw CZ come out and launch this Aster dex. He was like, challenging Hyperliquid. Then Justin Sun did the same. There's another one on base of Avantis that's pumping. These things have gone up like hundreds of percentages in a matter of days. Due to this kind of revenue idea, people are rediscovering perp dexes as if it's a new concept in crypto. What's your take on this kind of Justin Sun versus CZ versus Jeff, kind of like perp dex phenomenon? How do you guys see Hyperliquid's position? How do you guys see just this entire kind of like flash in the pan that we saw over the weekend playing out? Just genuinely curious. Maybe you can go first, right side.
Oh, yeah, sure. I would say for the span of the whole year, Hyperliquid has taken like majority of the market share for like a perp dex. I would say it's insanely great how Jeff have managed a team, like just operating with a small team, but able to scale this big, right? However, there's always an opportunity for competitors to come in the perp deck space to innovate and to to develop. Because I think that if there's no competitors, then there's no development or there's no innovation that's gonna happen. So we're also in the lookout for like new perp dexes. I mean, Hyperliquid came in this year. 2 years ago, if I recall right, like GMX was there, and then last cycle there was DYDX. There's always room for improvement in the perp deck space, which is one of the biggest venues for crypto to come in, because how they're able to leverage on trading different types of tokens. So with CZ, Justin Sun starting to build their own perp decks, it's eventually going to make more of our perp deck space more efficient, more innovative, and able to provide more value to our users. On our end as well, for the yield market or yield trading market, there are people that are starting to innovate and think things. We're always open to see competition as well and see how we can innovate on our end. So it's a natural thing. Happy to see more of that. But yeah, I think Hyperliquid is a very strong
Brent, close
competitor.
us out, man.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Hyperliquid is an amazing team to work with as well, and what they have done in the past months has been incredible to watch. For the competition part, I couldn't agree more. Competition is healthy. It drives people. It makes us, take a look at ourselves and see how we can improve. More data on chain, more capital on chain, more people on chain is what is leading to, which is also bullish for 𝘰𝘳, because that means like more playing field for agents, more data to consume for agents, more destinations for agents. So I'm very much looking forward to all of it.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining today. It's been a pleasure. Congrats on the Pulse launch, and see you guys soon.
Thank you, Andy. Have a great week.
Appreciate it.
You as well.
Thank you.
Later, guys. Alrighty, guys. Good to have the Pendle and 𝘰𝘳 guys on. Smart teams, just moving forward in the AI crypto space, in the DeFi space. So just always good to kind of hear from teams that are pushing the boundaries and actually making that happen. Up next, we've got the man of the hour. We've got Michael Heinrich from OG. He's launched DAT already before the token launched. He launched mainnet. He launched the token today. It's going to be an exciting segment. We are going to get him up shortly and get started with Michael from Zero Gravity. So, guys, welcome back again to the Rollup TV. If you're watching on Twitter, you can press the little button in the bottom corner, scroll the feed, hang out. If you're watching on YouTube, that is where our chat is. You can watch on YouTube as well at the Rollup Co. And we're going to welcome Michael on stage. So let's get him up. And Michael, big day for you.
Huge day. Not too much sleep these days, but it's been a lot of fun. Very exciting.
So you're
Big
calling
day,
in from
yeah.
Korea.
I'm in Korea. Yeah, it's about 11 p.m. right now, and still have a couple meetings to go after this. So
Nice. What is the
long night.
What is the vibe in Korea? For the last couple of days, I know KBW is getting started. How are things out there?
So I was at the Hack Summit this morning and giving a speech, and then literally going into was at the Joseon Palace Hotel. Getting into the hotel, was greeted by like huge lines in front of the elevator. I was like, okay, it's retail attention is real in Korea. So really fun so far. Very exciting vibe. It's also really cool to see a lot of the like zero-G graphics around Gangnam. So you can just like walk around, you see like a panda and the zero-G logo. So I was really pleased with all of that.
Beautiful. Well, man, we got a lot to discuss. So I'm glad that you're here and made some time for this. I know it's been busy. Let's just start with mainnet. Let's start with the launch. How did everything go? Did it go smooth? Are you satisfied? Kind of just what was the last 48 hours like?
So the last 48 hours now feel a little bit like a blur, but it was just a lot of detailed work. So anything from making sure all the smart contracts are ready for claims and making sure the kind of mainnet is ready and prepped and so on. And so luckily, there were some glitches, like for example, there was a bit of kind of delay in transaction and block processing on the L1 as we were kind of starting to stress test it. And we figured it out pretty quickly. So within 20 minutes, everything was back up live. The claim initially didn't work. So a lot of people got pissed off pretty quickly, but we fixed that as well. So I would say we did the best we could in terms of preparation, and definitely acknowledge people got kind of angry, saying like, "Hey, why isn't the claim up? You said the claim was going to be up." But we were able to manage and go through it. But I think we launched with 22 exchanges or something like that, live on day one, and had a couple of the Korean exchanges, 𝘵𝘳𝘠 upbit day one as well. So feel really excited and pleased to be in Korea and to be able to do all of that. So by and large, I think it went well. Definitely a few glitches that we had to go through, and really appreciate our community for being patient with us.
Yeah, awesome. All right, the news of the hour is Flora is rebranding to Zero Stack, with you, Michael, stepping in as executive chairman and Daniel Rice-Faria as CEO. You guys raised $400 million, with a good chunk of that being from DeFi Dev Corp, about $22.8 million. There was also rumors coming out that there was upwards of a couple $100 million of locked OG kind of contributed to this. Maybe you could clear up the FUD here. People are saying that this is really, not a good look for Zero G, for the DATs, that this is like another level of kind of pushing this in the direction of just kind of being in danger zone in regards to just the entire idea of DATs. What does this represent strategically? Why did you choose to do the pipe pricing at $3 per token, before the token was launched? How did that decision get made? Talk to us about this DAT.
Yeah, so quite a few questions in there. But people who are basically making claims like that don't understand why DATs exist and how they work. And so effectively, a DAT exists to have and hold the underlying token, and to accumulate more and more of that underlying token, so that the token per share grows over time. That's the key metric, effectively. And so it's in the best interest of the DAT to never actually sell the underlying token, because it's a treasury vehicle. And generally, these DATs also are priced at a premium to what's called MNAV, or net asset value. And so when they trade at a premium, and actually if you look at MicroStrategy over time, MicroStrategy as a stock performed 3x better than the underlying Bitcoin, because of a lot of the kind of financial engineering that Michael Saylor has done, and the kind of premiums to MNAV that he's been able to drive. When you have those premiums, then you can actually sell shares to buy more of the underlying token. And so that whole statement basically shows that people don't understand kind of the purpose of these DATs. It's all about accumulation of the underlying asset. In this case, Zero Stack is accumulating Zero G. And so it's effectively a way for, some protocols use things like buyback and burn mechanisms. In Zero G's case, it's a NASDAQ listed entity that its whole purpose now is to buy Zero G tokens and to take it off kind of the liquid markets, if you will, or through other various mechanisms. And so because this was launched before there was a live trading token, there were a number of kind of challenges, legal challenges, tax challenges. You also mentioned one, which is kind of the pricing challenge. How do you price something that's not even liquid yet? And so we basically had to get an independent third party to say, we believe this is a fair price. And so we got a valuation firm. They said, based on a number of historical factors and other things, we believe $3 per token is a fair price. And luckily, towards the end, before the announcement, we also had Binance pre-market kind of list the token itself, and the token price in that pre-market started reflecting as well what the DAT price was. Even more so, there was actually a premium to that, and so we felt really good about the valuation work that the company did. So felt like it was pretty fair.
This claim has been for there's been this claim for the Solana DATs. There's been this claim for some of these others that, okay, you've got these teams that are contributing locked tokens, and then their shares on the public market get unlocked within 30, 60, 90 days, allowing the team and insiders to have an early exit. What would be your response to people who are saying that, that the team and then that the investors are losing faith in the Zero Gravity project and they want an early exit? What is the response to that type of question?
I'm smiling because people that say that don't understand SEC regulations. I would like to see all of the DATs where the key management team members have actually sold large swaths of equity. There's probably zero because you've got security regulations and insider trading regulations. So this type of stuff is generally done through a managed process where if you want to avoid kind of insider trading rules, you have to have a managed kind of sale process. And I'm forgetting what the structure is called exactly right now. I have it on X, so people can definitely look it up. Because imagine you have 5 of the core executives of that company selling equity before a specific event, let's say before a quarterly report. What do you think that signals to the market? It's not a bullish signal,
Yeah,
right?
it's not good. No, it's not good.
Yeah, exactly. And so to avoid all of these kind of, first of all, insider trading knowledge aspects and also negative signals to the market, you do it on a managed kind of sell approach. And so it would be absolute like self-suicide to try to sell large swaths of equity into the market from the management team. That's not long-term aligned with how DATs work and how securities regulations work. And so people really need to look under the hood and understand what's actually going on before they make claims like that are really baseless.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys mentioned that zero-G, the token, will be the primary reserve asset.
Correct.
What is the kind of broad scope of this DAT for Zero Stack here? Is it going to be strictly a zero-G token DAT? Will there be other tokens as a part of it? What is the kind of nature of the plans from a broad perspective? What can you share?
Yeah, so basically the reason why it's called Zero Stack because it's supposed to stack zero-G over time. And so the primary purpose is only for zero-G at this point. And so
Okay.
it's basically the very first decentralized AI DAT, if you will, that's really focused on the core infrastructure that makes AI transparent, verifiable, ultimately safe, and also decentralized, which makes it much more open and a community-driven approach, community-owned, so to speak. And so for the first time, institutional and retail investors on the equity markets can actually get exposure this way if they have never had exposure to a token vehicle or investment.
Yeah. And in the lens of the actual buying pressure on zero-G, we've seen other DATs come out, announce that they're going to buy quite a bit of its given token, and then actually go and do it. But in this case, it feels like this is more of like a supply sink mechanism for zero-G than it is a new buying pressure in the immediate term. Is that the right way to think about it, or is there plans to start accumulating zero-G as well with the cash raised?
No. It's definitely both. I mean, you take supply off the market because many investors on the Zero Gravity Labs cap table chose to do in-kind contributions. And that's great from a supply control perspective, if you will, on the token. But really, the idea is to take all of the cash that Zero Stack has raised, as well as have different financial instruments that provide even more cash, things like ATMs, for example, and then consistently make announcement about zero-G token buys as well. So it would be really silly to have a DAT that just removes supply without doing any of the buying. You're missing a big part of the equation and why there's kind of like premiums to MNAV.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And when you were kind of thinking about your role in zero-G, you're now the executive chairman of Zero Stack, but does that mean that you still remain CEO of Zero-G Labs, or how does the leadership structure change? And maybe you could give us a bit of the background as to who the CEO is and kind of how his involvement in Zero Stack came about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the executive chairman. So I work directly with a CEO called 𝘗𝘠𝗪𝘀 Faria. And so as the executive chairman, I'm more involved on more of the strategic planning side, more of the thinking around here are some aspects of where we can go into. Here's potential ways of generating new potential cash streams to buy more of the zero-G token. And very much as part of this, very clearly in my contract, I said that I'm remaining the CEO of Zero Gravity Labs because I want to ensure that the technology leadership and the research leadership of the protocol consistently improves and we can support all of those aspects, and that there's no gap in leadership for that. And so, yes, I'm the executive chairman of ZeroStack, as well as the CEO, and maintaining to be the co-founder, of course, of Zero Gravity Labs. And then to talk a little bit about Daniel as well. So he was one of the core architects of DFDV together with Joseph. Joseph was the chief strategy officer at Kraken for a long period of time. And together with some additional team members, built what is now one of the earliest Solana DAT, and as well as one of the biggest, and then according to MSNBC, the second most successful DAT right after MicroStrategies from a return on equity standpoint. And so very, very strong leadership, a lot of experience in running DATs, a lot of experience in understanding equity markets, how to run ATMs, and kind of just in general financial structuring. So really proud to be working with that team. Because of FDV's backing, they will also do a lot of the kind of back-end processes, like help us run ATMs and so on. So it's just an absolutely stellar team, and really love working with the guys.
Nice. Awesome. One last thing on the DAT construction, if you can share, I think you probably have a duty to disclose, how many lock tokens you're looking to contribute into the DAT, and then kind of what the lockup is going to be for the investors of that DAT. And I know that we talked about the incentive mechanisms and the why, but I think that the community generally, the best way to debunk this FUD is just to be pretty transparent with the amount of tokens locked in kind that you're planning to contribute, as well as the lockup for the shares that are being traded on the public market for ZeroStack.
Yeah, absolutely. And we haven't released the SEC filings around it, so I just wait people to be patient until the SEC filings are out, then I can talk more publicly about it as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that they go hand in hand effectively.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm happy to like write you about it, and then you can post about it on the Rollup as well.
Awesome. Michael, shifting away into now actually what Zero G is building. You guys have been building in this AI kind of landscape for, it feels like, I think our fund invested, it feels like 2 years ago. Now
That's right.
It's been a journey. What is the zero gravity chain simply do, and what is the ecosystem? What is your vision now post mainnet, right? It's live. It's very much in the live stage, out of the testing environment. What is your vision for zero gravity chain, let's say a year from now, 2 years from now? And what are you guys most focused on?
Yeah, so what I keep emphasizing with our community and the team is that TG is just day one. We were in day zero, TG is day one, because now we have things that are measurable. Like any campaign that we run, whether it's a technology campaign, it's a marketing campaign, it's an ecosystem campaign, we can now directly measure actual impact on kind of key metrics. And these key metrics could be, transaction volume, TVL, new wallets registered. There's various ways of kind of measuring success over time. But our mission is to make AI a public good. And that's not just a 1 year or 2 year type of mission. That's maybe a lifetime type of mission. Because when we truly succeed, we can create a world that's full of abundance. And maybe in a couple generations, we don't even have to work for a living anymore, because AI is doing a lot of the things that we don't want to do, and we get to do more of the things that we do want to do. Maybe that means self-actualization or type of enlightenment type of activities over time. So that's the type of world that I want to see being built. And I had a daughter about a year ago, and I would love for her to, live in a world that has that kind of mindset. So that's what we stand for. And for that, we need, as I mentioned, transparent AI, safe AI, and we can go into why that's the case and all of the kind of research that's coming around it. But to go back to your question, like the immediate future, now that it's day one, we have to say, we need to really focus on building an ecosystem that has a lot of reality and a lot of usage, because otherwise, if people don't adopt it, then it's it's a great mission, but not a lot of usage. And so 5 key initiatives have to be part of that. So we look at it, we need to build a liquidity layer first, then an application layer. Then we need to double down on our decentralized research leadership. We also need to double down on faster tech rollouts. And then finally, we want to decentralize the ecosystem and kind of the leadership of the protocol as well. And so let's go into each one of them. Our fundamental philosophy is all about first principles thinking. So when we architected the chain, we didn't just say, hey, what's the key components that are available today, and let's see how much performance we can get out of them. We basically said, well, what do AI workloads look like? If I look at a modern data center, there's hundreds of gigabytes, even terabytes per second of throughput that are required to do some of these training processes. How do we architect a DA layer that's actually that performant versus doing it the other way? And if we did it the other way, we would have maybe landed at, we can do 100 megabytes, maybe a gigabyte per second throughput on that. Instead, our system does 50 gigabytes per second per consensus layer. And when you horizontally scale consensus layers, you get to infinite scale effectively. So that's our mindset around it. And so similarly with the liquidity layer, we believe TVL should be brought to the chain when it's actually needed, not upfront. Like, why do we need 5 billion of TVL upfront if nobody's going to use it? If the application layer isn't even ready, if the users aren't really fully on chain. And so why can't we do an infinite TVL campaign, quote unquote, where we draw on liquidity and incentives when it's absolutely necessary for the growth of the ecosystem? So those are things on the liquidity layer. Application layer, it's really all about how do we build a clear ecosystem value proposition so builders know exactly the type of support they get based on what stage they are, and then also that they feel based on that stage that they get an competitive advantage by joining the zero-G ecosystem. And really our goal is to like AIify a lot of existing verticals and attract the builders that can actually do that. So number 3, research. We published 5 recent articles, 4 of which are already in top AI and software engineering conferences. So things like decentralized federated learning being a solution to centralized federated learning and the security issues that it has. Other things we've done too, for example, we published a paper where for the first time, we trained a model that's 107 billion parameters in a fully decentralized fashion. That was never possible before. It's 3 times the previous standard and kind of capacity. Forbes covered it. Many other news publications covered it. It was a major breakthrough because for the first time, you could actually use low bandwidth connections, about 1 gigabyte per second, to actually train these models and not have gridlock issues, and then also do dual communication model, where we increase the kind of communication, we decrease the communication overhead by 357x. We basically utilized some of the research Google did with 𝘠𝘪𝑘𝑜 and then improved it significantly and created 𝘠𝘪𝑘𝑜x effectively. So just some of the examples. And then technology rollout, we already are sharded architecture where you can get infinite TPS, but each shard does about 11,000 TPS right now, 400 millisecond block time, but we want to 10x the performance over time. Because when you do that, you can then build any AI application, any massive scale Web 2 application fully on Web 3. And so then we've effectively figured out kind of the scaling challenges. And then decentralizing the ecosystem. We haven't announced this yet, but we're one of the first companies to use a DUNA in governance, for example. We'll have a security council, and that security council will initially use optimistic type of voting, where effectively we listen to the community, we look at new security proposals, we propose something, and then community members can effectively veto those types of proposals. And then if it doesn't veto after a few days, then the whole thing gets passed. And we want to have more and more features of that. So progressive decentralization is part of it. And of course, all of these initiatives require absolutely the best people that are very mission aligned. And so you'll see some really big announcement coming out about some of the recent leadership that we fired as well. So it's going to be very exciting.
Interesting. Very interesting. Last thing for you, Michael, your kind of operating system or OS, it encompasses storage, compute, and training all into one. You kind of got into this. We don't need to go too deep down the rabbit hole, but by doing this, what is the killer use case that it unlocks for builders today? If you bundle together compute, training, and storage, what do you get for AI builders who want to get involved into the blockchain ecosystem?
Yeah, if I'm a Web 2 AI builder and I'm used to going to OpenAI and having a bunch of API calls for different types of models, and if I need to do fine tuning, I have this API call. If I need to pull a video model, I have this API call. If I'm going to Web 3 and then I'm like, wait, this thing does like one specific type of inference. It's like verifiable inference at ZKML. I'm like, what is ZK? Now I need to read up about ZK. And it's like, oh, it's way too slow for what I need. Okay, let me go to OPML. Actually, that doesn't work so well either. Okay, what else should I do? TML, I guess. Okay, let me try that. Oh, okay, that actually works. And before you know it, you go to like 20 different services and you're like, I just wasted like weeks trying to figure out what I need to build. And so by having a one-stop shop, by having an experience where everything just easily works together, it's a huge advantage for builders because they just need to go to one place and then enjoy still the decentralized aspects of it, but be able to pull in whatever they need. It's a modular fashion. So if you happen to like a storage service that works better for you, like go ahead, but then use us for, the fine tuning and inference type of services.
Beautiful. Michael Heinrich live from Korea. Big day. Huge token launch. Big DAT launch. Fighting the FUD. There's going to be more FUD. It's never going to stop.
Part of the process.
You're going to have to fight that, and you're going to have to build and everything. It's going to be a really fun challenge for you guys. Enjoy KBW. Enjoy the vibes in Korea. I think it's probably all-time highs in terms of Korea mindshare, in terms of teams wanting to capitalize on the market. And so, glad that you're there. Robbie's there. If you see him, tell him, hey. And yeah, thanks for your time, man.
Will do. No, thanks for having me. Really enjoyed your questions. Till next time.
I hope I didn't take it too hard on you, man. I'm always just
That's
always just
okay.
trying to
That's
find
okay.
out what's going on, man. All right.
I have a thick skin. Don't worry.
All righty, Mike. Thanks for your time, buddy.
Awesome.
Speak soon.
See you.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
man. All right, guys. What do we think? What do we think? What do we think? Is this thing? Let's see where OG's trading at.
Pretty good, right?
And obviously, guys, disclosure. I did say during the call and before our fund did do the early investment round 2 years ago with OG. It feels like maybe it was closer to a year and a half ago. Tokens at 5 billion right now. Had a huge launch. Michael's in Korea. That was his explanation. I think the big thing that we're going to want to see
is
from
1% per
that
hour.
team is going to be the actual financials, the public statements
That's
from
the
SEC,
funding rate.
how much
That's the-
locked in kind OG
Yeah, gotta
was
pay up.
contributed,
Good luck
and
to you,
how
sir.
much capital is going to go towards buying the token, as well as
That's
the
crazy.
lockup parameters for
Pretty good.
zero stack.
I think it was a
those are the most
successful
important
launch.
things to note. So,
Yeah, feeling
guys,
good about it.
we have CMS on
a lot
next.
of things
We're gonna roll him
well
in, get him
coordinated. I
fired
mean,
up.
obviously
He's
some
gonna come out
challenges here and there,
swinging.
but I think
and
a
he's
lot
gonna
of things
come out
went right as
ready
well.
to go. So
Like
let's
whale
get him up,
buying,
and
market maker
we'll
kind of
get CMS
engagement,
in.
exchange
Rob's
engagement.
going to join us for this one, and
the
we're
DApp
going to get going
announcement, all
live
of that.
here with
So
CMS. Have a good talk with
yeah, a
him
lot
about
of things went
the market,
quite well as well.
what he's seeing,
Yeah, the
and
chain
his
did,
takes on
well,
where
by
we're
and
at
large
in
didn't
this
break down
DApp
fully,
mania
so
in the
it
market
actually
at
worked.
large as
So
well.
I'm feeling good
So
about the tech
let's get
aspects too.
CMS up
So
here, and we'll
yeah.
get rolling right into
Yeah.
the next one.
But what was interesting about the crash in 22 was that was the first time there was a material credit crunch with the bear market, right? So like not only are like asset prices going down, but people are like having to like pay back, borrow, and it like exacerbated things like much more to the downside. And it also like caused people to just like blow up. Like in previous cycles, if you had like prices went down, like you were pissed and like you were out a lot of money, but it was very hard to like blow yourself up. I mean, you could do it. Like BitMEX and OKX were still around, but it was very hard to go like negative.
Yeah.
Right. Because like your counterparty is going to just like unwind you. That was not the case in 22. And like, obviously we saw that as everything had to like pay through bankruptcy and like we were still dealing with it. And like everything like was a lot more like volatile. This cycle, like the credit in that way never really came back. There's little bits of it, but it's definitely not anywhere near the capacity and size it was before. You're seeing leverage like that though come through TradFi, right? So like a lot of these DATs, they have the ability to borrow, or they're like issuing sort of like traditional vehicles to like be able to like borrow money, though they're not like leveraged for the most part. Like they're issuing just like stock and then selling it and then buying. But like if there's any form of like leverage outside of just like what you see on like the futures, like it's coming in sort of via those angles. But still, by and far and large, there's not like a lot of credit in the market. Maple's probably now like the biggest player.
Yeah, they hit 4 billion.
Yeah, which is big, but like that's still small compared to where we were.
Yeah.
I don't know what the total number lent came out to be last highs of like that 21-22 cycle, but I bet it was 100x or so of that. So anyway, yeah, like that, like, but Maple's got a good business. They're like running, but they're still like lenders are still, you still have to be fully collateralized, if not like over. Like you can't, the idea that you can just like go with like a Twitter handle and like borrow money is just like kind of gone.
Yeah, I mean, we
may not come back.
We saw Wildcat get hit from a small loan thing that they were dealing with, because they're kind of on the uncollateralized or undercollateralized side of things, which never really came. You know, we got CMS here, guys. Welcome to the Rollup TV. Welcome CMS. We're just gonna keep cranking. Welcome Dan. Yeah, I mean, there was this idea in DeFi back in 2020, 2021 that like we kind of extended all of the debt that we could get with over collateralized lending and all these different kind of ideas. And I remember us kind of thinking like, okay, we're going to get under collateralized lending next. And like, that's what's going to, you know, give us like the next leg. You know, it took 4 years. It's still kind of not even here. 3Jane is kind of working. Wildcat was kind of working, but not really at any scale. And now it's like, okay, the DATS is what is going to bring a ton of new money into DeFi. Like that is what's going to be the, you know, because these DATS need to get yield. They need to get more value per share. And so, you know, I don't think any of us could have bet that it was going to be these institutional treasury vehicles that were going to come and get DeFi to the $1 trillion, you know, TVL 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're still going to use the overclap like protocols. I mean, we use Wildcat a bit. We had an open loan in there that we rolled through like 2 quarters. So like, I think we did it for like 6 months. It just like, there wasn't as much like inbound interest to lend at it, which I understand, right? Like it's uncollateralized, like it's risky. So like we kind of just like stopped doing it. But maybe that will change. Like maybe there's a world that like people get even more risk on and like they'll start wanting to like reach further out the curve to like get yield. But I'm just like a little skeptical of it. But like there's like flow happening there. It's just been tiny, I think, like in aggregate.
Yeah,
it might change. The problem is I think rates would just have to be so high that it's like it's a non-starter for people that are like looking to borrow it, except for short-term stuff. The thing that defaulted was kind of like that was doomed from the get. Like it was a protocol that got hacked, right? And they were like,
yeah, there was like Kinto. Yeah,
we're gonna go try to find money to like plug the hole, but for now we're gonna plug it with a borrow. I don't know. That seemed like a wild. Like it was
a wild card for sure.
They were admitting they were insolvent and like that they needed to. So I don't know. I don't count that one like against Wildcat. Like I think they were very upfront. I think it paid like a 50% APY.
50%,
yeah. So I mean, you knew what you were getting into. But that's niche, right? Like that's not going to be like a material use case for it. Like right now, it's mostly been like well-known players looking to like get balance sheet as they can anywhere. I mean, like I think that's the big part of a lot of shops is it's hard, right? If you want to scale your activity up, like there's not a ton of ways to get capital. It's very hard. You can't like really tap traditional sources for the most part. It's just like not open like sort of for like crypto. They view the business as too risky, which might be like the reality of it. Yeah. And then like inside crypto, it's like very expensive to borrow. Or you just got to be like massively over collateralized, or you got to go and sell equity. And like people just like don't want to do that. So like that's I think why things get like hamstrung. Like the market makers in particular who have like the easiest claim for like why they need the balance sheet and like they're not just trying to lever long, like have the hardest time borrowing.
And you were saying earlier that the 2021-22 cycle had a lot of those lenders that would extend credit into the system. They're not really here now. And so we're kind of looking at like the DeFi sources for that credit. But do you think it's a result of there was a low rate environment then and then rates started to go up?
No, I don't think the rates matter at all. No.
The lenders are going to come back in at all.
I don't think it's a rate function. No, I mean I don't know. Well, we were in a 2-3% rate environment and like they were lending at 10 to 12. Like I don't think like it cranking up to 5 like mattered. I think it was just there was this big push, right? Like I mean BlockFi had all these like ads like on podcasts and stuff, like go earn 8% on your money. And like people were just like, yeah, let's do that. And like nobody thought. The problem was like nobody ever really gave a true thought of like where the end paper like landed, right? Like where did the money ultimately like reside? And that was obfuscated from the lender because they didn't know. Like if you lent your money to BlockFi, you were like, all right, I face BlockFi. Like I don't know where then they take it and like give it to. Same way with Genesis, right? Like or Celsius, all of them, they were the same model. You had no idea who was like the end holder of it. Like if the reality was like, hey, we got like 4 market makers and like 3 prop shops that are probably just like levered long with it. Like people might have been like, I don't know if that's so like I think that was the problem, right? It's like there was no way to like figure out like where the risk profile of that like really worked. And they were largely borrowing from retail. That was the other thing, right? Like it was like taking all these like slugs of retail money and like lending it out. Or it was like retail and like wealthy crypto, which like functions a lot like retail. Like nobody's asking a lot of questions.
So Dan, I think as a result of that, basically what we've seen in the market more than ever, right, is this dispersion, or you call it like a bifurcation of returns, where, you know, you look at the market as a whole, and, you know, with the Bitcoin bid that we had the last 2 years from Saylor, you would have thought that we would have seen better performance across the board outside of just Solana, Sol meme coins, and some very select few winners. They've started to show themselves more and more this last 6 to 9 months. But for most of end of 23, mid to end of 23 into 24, it was very Bitcoin and meme coin dominated, and probably as a result of where the interest rates were at, although you seem to not think that maybe that has as much of an impact, also just of the lack of credit. And so we started to kind of get this idea going here on the show. And I coined this term revenue meta, which I got so much flack for, pretty much for the name meta, because why is it a meta? It's just business, guys. And so I think that is where the market is kind of at now. Is this kind of like fundamental coins, understanding that there's actual value in tokens that have cash flows that return to the token. I'm curious, like, thinking about Syrup, Euler, Pump, Hype, these types of like Aave, right? These assets, like, are you seeing and expecting considerably more flows into these tokens that have this kind of like revenue structure or like buyback profile? And then how do you think about these when it comes to the DATs, which is just like, we're just going to raise a bunch of cash and buy back, forget about needing to buy back with our own protocol rev. We're just going to be buying back in scale as a result. There's kind of like two different categories here of like, I would consider highly investable tokens. I'm curious how you're seeing like this more broadly.
Well, look, if a token has revenue, it can like buy back its own token. Like the market can't really dictate its valuation like beyond. So I guess I say it's like, right, like there's a forward projection of what like a token's valuation should be as a function of its revenue, right? Like this is just like traditional equities, right? Like you do a discounted cash flow, you figure out like sort of what that valuation is. And that's like your baseline for these things. So that gives you like a floor of sort of like how this stuff like will trade. Everything else like on top of that is like obviously just expectations of like where like future P&L is like going to go up or down, like any like risk to the business, like any competition that comes, anything they may be able to do on top. So like those things will trade that way according to, I think, like, and that gives you a floor. The problem is if you're like a protocol that effectively, well, if you're a protocol that like makes the decision, like we're not going to try to like figure out how to make money in any capacity, then you're just subject to the whims of like the same thing as meme coins, where it's all just like driven by flows, right? And those speculative flows are like, they move randomly somewhat, right? Like they have like a beta to the market, but you're much like, you've got much more risk of just like going to 0 too. So I guess my question to answer your question is that if you do have this like good business with like revenue, like there's not a lot of reason to think like suddenly that's going to like stop, right? Or that like the whole thing's going to crash. So those things should continue to trend up. What's going to like dictate the price now is like what the forward guidance is on whatever their like niches that they make money, right? Like they're all all the stuff you mentioned kind of is primarily driven by like trading activity still, right? Like Hype is just perps and leverage, and then Pump is just like basically a basket of like casino tokens that you can like gamble on. So it's like two sort of sides of the same coin of like, it's fundamentally driven by like speculative interest by like people. And if you think, if there's a bear market and suddenly people aren't interested, like the token may just trade down because like there's less expected speculation like in the future. And there's also like risk because there's other competitors building in the market, like they'd be able to maybe grab market share. There's like regulatory risk still on these things, even though we're in the Trump administration. So like those will be like the shocks if they have any.
Dan, so on that note, I put out this tweet like on the, first of all, completely agree with your frame of reference. If these things are making money, they're likely to continue. You got to understand what the market is, what the size potential is. That's why Flood is like, look, Hype will always be bigger than Pump. If meme coins are just a dying market. Now Pump is doing more like streaming. Maybe they have a thing there. I don't know. But we'll see. But I totally agree on those 2 points. And on the competitive point, I put out this tweet. It was May 22nd this year. If you were CZ watching Hyperliquid hit $8 billion in open interest, what would you do about it? And then today or last night, I quote tweeted it. They've launched this thing Aster. They've launched this token Aster, their own perp decks. I was like, BCZ, watch Hyperliquid win the last 12 months, sidelined, realized the entire business is at risk, yada, yada, yada. Launch a competitor, launch a token, pump the brakes off of it. what an absolute wild industry. And it seems like a lot of these centralized exchanges are now trying to get into the decentralized exchange perps game as a result of Hyperliquid's success. So if you were CZ in May, or if you're CZ now, what are you thinking about the rise of Hyperliquid? What do you think about the rise of these perp dexes as it pertains to them being a threat to Binance's core business model?
Yeah, I think there's two ways you look at it as a competitor, right? You either take the tact of like, this is like unfair because these things aren't like subject to KYC and AML restrictions that like we are, and like you lobby regulators to like do something about it. That does not seem to be the case of like what's going to happen, or you sort of like build a better product cheaper and like you try to get it out there, right? Like fees should come down for all this stuff. Like the VIG that like pump and collect is like too high. I think like that'll get driven down. So there'll be fee compression.
Interesting. Dan, are you particularly bullish on a basket of DeFi tokens, of majors? What does the CMS portfolio look like today? What's your kind of outlook on where things are headed? Let's call it in the more kind of like midterm, with regards to a specific basket of majors or DeFi tokens. Kind of what are you interested in now?
Yeah, I don't think there's gonna any reason to think that like the current trajectory of the revenue generating sort of basket of names is going to change, for the record. Like I think that's like still a great trade. So like I don't see any reason to like deviate from that until you see like there actually be some compression or competitor or like regulatory change that pushes it. But I just don't see anything right now. Not to say there won't be, but like as it stands, like I don't think you got to do anything if that's like where you're allocated. I do think people are gonna. So I kind of just like complain about this in Twitter a bunch, where like people like are like the death of the 4-year cycle, and like everybody's just gonna like, if you remember about 8 months ago, everybody's like it's only ever gonna be Bitcoin again because like that's the only one with a DAT and it's got Sailor. I do think the DATs are like a structural risk. I think that's kind of like end like very badly for everybody at some point. I don't know when, but like as we get I mean there's a lot of them now. I think there's like 300 or so. And they're obviously like are getting shittier quality and like they're putting like crappier assets in them like as time goes on. So that's like not great. And also all of it's dilutive to Sailor, right? Like the fact that there's more of them. Like this was always like the concern. People are like, well, like Sailor can just stop selling stock and then like you can sort of like he doesn't have to like keep crushing the stock. And the problem is like, well, people can just like launch competitors, right? Like the market's going to find a way to like, if people are willing to buy a Bitcoin for $1.20 when it's worth $1, like the market's going to find a way to keep like issuing $1.20, like, and that's what the equity is. So like they're finding a way to like crush that. And you've seen a lot of these have like traded back to like MNAV now. It's really hard to get good information on that, by the way. Like all the dashboards are like just generally broken. But like the idea is just like it's like they'll trade down on days like crypto's up, and then like you really know it's like compressing. Anyway, no, sorry, but my point was that like I do think there's still like a phase of the cycle of like where you see people grab risk like longer out the risk curve. I mean, there's a world that just happens to be memes, but I do think like you still see like a flow into like larger like cap alts and then like medium cap alts. Like I still think the cycle's like playing out accordingly. I think it's just like taking a longer.
Yeah. So the news today with the ETFs, which seems massively bullish on the face of it, right now, I saw essentially if there's something that has a perpetuals on a regulated centralized exchange like Coinbase, these things are basically just guaranteed to get a spot ETF.
Yeah, I think that's the way the Bloomberg guys put it, and they're generally smarter than everybody else on Twitter for this stuff.
Yeah, so I saw the same thing you did. And so if this is the case, it feels really similar to the principle that you just described with the DATs. It's going to be dilutive to the ETFs that are already out there, but it's going to open up the breadth of all the potential assets in this universe that have the ETFs, and then it'll kind of like have a wider funnel for the flows.
Yeah, I think like there was like a thought that in the beginning of the year, like there was going to be a blessed handful of assets that like were able to make it through, and like those would just be the assets, and like that's where all like the flow would go. But it's like no. Instead, we're going to find a way to just put everything into like the TradFi vehicles. So I think that's like really what we're going to probably end up seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I had the Canary Capital CEO on, who has been doing a lot of the ETF issuance, or at least filings, and he mentioned that basically the end of this month is the end of like the review period. The early into next month, into mid-October, is going to be the kind of like decision-making period, and then his thought was that by the end of October, we should see an onslaught of ETF you know, for the Litecoins, the Stellars, the Salon, like the Souls, the XRPs, all of these, you know, names, the Injectives, Pengus. I mean, it could be
everything.
It could be
You
10
name
names,
it.
or it could be 50
If
names.
they can cobble together a couple $1,000,000 for the filing fees, like get it together.
So
yeah.
how do you think that okay, so with the context of a lot of us thought that this cycle was going to be dominated by ETFs providing buying power to get us to like BTC to 100K. Well, that was not the case. It was firmly the DATs. How do you see the ETFs that are coming on for like the more esoteric cryptos? How do you see that impacting DAT flows or just general flows in the context of DATs being the main driver, and also in the context of a lot of the speculation this cycle having taken place so far on the public markets and not as much, you know, on chain or on you know, centralized exchanges and whatnot?
Yeah, I just don't know how much like end demand there is for all this stuff. And we're gonna definitely test it. So like we'll see pretty quickly. I just don't know if there's like a demand for like the 50th like altcoin ETF. Like who's buying it? Like where's that like flow coming through? So I don't know necessarily how much there'll be. Like we're gonna tap out pretty quick, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I mean, the supply will be there, but like, yeah, like if somebody wanted to buy Avalanche already, for example, they would have bought Avalanche. Like it's not that hard to get exposure to Avalanche. But I suppose like 401ks, pensions, these types of investors perhaps, but these types of investors are likely not trying to allocate to like long tail crypto assets, you know, like, I don't know, Dan. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, if it's there, maybe they trade it. Or they buy a basket of it, or you got a guy, maybe you got like a long short ETF altcoin fund. I don't know. Yeah. I'll tell you this though, the issuers are making a ton of money, so they're going to keep doing this.
Yeah. But at a certain point, we're going to run out of demand as we go deeper down the risk curve. They're going to continue to push them out there. But that feels like it's going to be the signal of kind of like the beginning of the end, where it's like, okay, well, we have a lot of these, they don't have a lot of flows coming into them. And so when they're there, like, it's not, this isn't driven by leverage and credit, like we were talking about earlier. Like this.
Well, it is a little bit.
But
you're right. Like it's not the same way.
Selling the stocks.
Well, I mean, like, I guess it's not like leverage, but like you don't know who the individual, like, I guess you don't know the leverage profile of the individual, like DAT buyer, right? Like they may just be like, it could just be like getting rolled into like margin financing, like inside the brokerage, and you have no insight into it. I'm not saying that's necessarily happening, but I'm saying we have no, like, we have almost no visibility into like parsing that out anymore.
I get maybe just point blank. Do you think, I mean, we're relative?
I don't think that's happening.
Right. So that would mean that the system is a lot less levered than it has been in previous market cycles, at least at this current point.
Yeah, I'd say a phase. Yeah.
Interesting. So I kind of have this thesis that I think that it'll be a slow decline in buying for a lot of these DATs, and I think that this is probably a consensus view. And then there's going to be
for the ETFs as well.
Yeah, and then there's going to be some blood on the bottom, you know. Do you expect?
Well, these DATs are maybe all, but most of them are going to trade under MNAV.
Yeah, and then do you think that they'll be forced to then sell their ETH, their Sol, or their Bitcoin to, you know, try to get back to premium, or what do you think that they will do?
It's going to be in a case by case basis, right? Like it's going to depend a lot on like what the governance and management looks like in any one of these DATs.
Yeah.
There's like, they're all, and it depends what their debt looks like. If they have any, it depends on so many things. You gotta remember also these things all have like some shitty core business too that they were like previously doing. So like there's like a real world that like, I don't know, management goes, look, like we did this crypto bullshit. Like, thanks. I'm going to sell it and I'm going to go try to run whatever I was previously running again. Right. Like they're not beholden to like doing the crypto thing forever.
Yeah.
Depending on like the case, right? Like these things are very nuanced in that like everyone's a little different.
Yeah.
And would you say that, so there is a possibility of like these guys are actually more patient and they don't have much debt. And so they don't have to go sell their crypto to cover that debt. And they can just kind of wait it out until they really just have the patience to let the market reappreciate back to where it's sort of at equilibrium. That's another possibility on a case.
The ones that just like sold stock and bought crypto where they can just wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, I don't know, like management, might want to do something.
What we're trying to get at is like last cycle, there were so many forced sellers that has caused so much
Right.
PTSD. And it seems like this cycle, even these DATs, they may not be forced sellers in the same way, I think is what the market's trying to answer and understand.
No, but they may not be forced, but they may decide to, I think is like the thing, right?
Okay.
Like just because like somebody's not like, hey, you're getting liquidated, do this, doesn't mean like they won't make the same decision down 30% to MNAV or whatever the hell, like the metric, like you want to like call it, right?
Yeah. Just switching gears a little bit, I'd like to get your perspective on this whole denominator going to zero thing. Like that seems like it could also just kind of rip this into a whole nother paradigm where all of a sudden DXY continues to depreciate. We're just going to just turn on the money printer and then, these things end up running a lot higher than maybe we think they're going to if things don't trade under MNAV and they don't become forced sellers. How important to your thesis and the operation at CMS is like a inflationary view, and generally like how do you think that plays out over like a shorter time frame? Because I think we all kind of got into this, like we see where inflation is and it's time to own assets, but a lot of times that's kind of the thesis on a long-term view, and it doesn't really play out maybe as it's slowly then suddenly, and it's still playing out slowly. So how do you rationalize this on a shorter time horizon?
We don't. I think like anybody who thinks they're like on crypto Twitter talking about like how they know the macro picture is just like lying to you. And like all these funds that go and do it, they go and blow up, right? Like it's hilarious. So I just don't do it. Like we tend to think things in like relative terms, right? Like why do I want to own X over Y? Not so much like do I want to be like allocating to dollars and like I have no idea like what euro dollar is going to do. And like I don't even know anybody that has any idea, right? Like I'm so far from that like decision making person and like having edge there, it just like doesn't factor in. We try to just like think about the world that we know, which is like the crypto, which is like honestly like a lot of this DAT stuff, like we don't have like a lot of insight into, right? Like none of us like really have like ever, like we all had jobs in TradFi at one point in our lives, but we're so far removed from it, specifically like this like sector of it. Like we don't necessarily have great edge or knowledge of like what's going on. So a lot of it's like just like speculating. What we do know is like how it's going to move spot around. So like that we can like figure out, but like we're not necessarily like, how does the governance work? Like, how does the SEC like think of these things? Like, where's the listing? Like, that stuff's like out of our wheelhouse. So we just generally don't think about it. Is the answer.
What like do you carry a scarce asset thesis as well? Do you think it's just kind of like whatever? Like how do you maybe just curious how you see the gold trade, the Bitcoin trade, the real estate trade, the freaking land trade, the rare art trade, like it's all kind of one trade.
Yeah, you want to own risk assets. Like that's just like the end of the day, and like just don't deviate from that. And like don't like you guys are 26 or whatever, so this is like not even in your like thought process. But like as you get older, at some point you got to be like, all right, I need to like own like enough like less riskier assets such that like my like timeline doesn't like blow up. And like that's just sort of it's like the same investing logic that like people have been doing forever. It's just like nobody owns fixed income anymore. You just own degrees of like other riskier assets.
Yeah. And so you guys are much more thinking about how can we position for relative market share growth within this industry, within risk assets. And so
even smaller niche, it's like how do the pieces like inside the crypto universe like grow relative into size of each other? Like that's like much more what it is.
Yeah. And so you guys are looking at some of the different sectors, payments, stable chains, stable coins, there's also like the revenue meta that Andy mentioned earlier and the hyperliquid trading pump thing. Like where
revenue meta, it's like sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but like it's just like companies making money is suddenly like a meta.
Click that, dude.
It's like it for the moment. And so
where are you seeing relative market growth? What are your trends that you're thinking about?
Yeah, bullish on companies making money.
Yeah.
Like that's sort of like evergreen, I think, is like the revenue meta. So I wouldn't call that. I mean, like right now, like a lot of stuff's being like structurally driven by like where this like the DAT flows are at any given time, right? Like I mean, Solana ran up the last 3 weeks because you had 2 large DATs raising and deploying. Like so that was like kind of the trade.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, Samani came out and said publicly that he was going to do that, and then Pantera.
And then he did it. Yeah, well, but it's like funny. It's like right, like the DAT comes out, they're like, "Hey, we're going to buy $1 billion of like I don't know, pick whatever coin," and like then they go and do it, and people are like, "Wow!" Like,
I know.
I was like,
it's like Trump doing the same thing when he's like, "Guys, like he tweets like stock market is going up, like just get on the ride. It's like, all right, when these people talk, you just listen sometimes.
I don't know, like nobody's hiding anything. Like they have to disclose it. Like, yeah. I think sometimes it's a little bit easier.
Dan, everyone wants exposure to stable coins. You haven't talked about this much. I don't know if you've done much venture into like the plasmas, the stables, the ARCs, these types, or if you did the Circle IPO or what that is, but everyone wants exposure to stable coins.
So I worked at Circle for 5 years, so I am very familiar with like sort of that side of that. We did this. We invested in plasma. I mean that's a great. What is that? September 25th now. So you got a week. That'll be.
I mean, it's trading at $7 billion pre-market on Hyperliquid.
I tend to discount heavily what the like pre-market like pricing is. So we'll see when it opens. Look, it's worth something, like it's a data point, but like these things tend to trade away like up and down depending on like where those like marks are. They're pretty thin. There's not like a ton trading there. So we'll see where that comes up, but that's like a good way to get exposure to it. I mean, historically, like people had used like Tron as like a proxy to sort of how you can get. I mean, you can buy Coinbase and Circle in your like equity sort of account. Like I own both, so like it's just like a way you can like get exposure to like stable coins from that side of the house. Like people want to complain about like the strengths or whatever the business is, but that's like a pure way to do it. And then like I think these chains will be like another really good way to do it. Plasma is probably gonna be the first of like material. So those are like good ways to get exposure to it.
Yeah. I mean, there's really not much else. I mean, like Sky and Maker, you know, is
but that's
close.
That is a stable coin, but like it really isn't, right? Like it's a debt instrument. So I don't know, like it's a little riskier, but that's another way if you want to like get in. Like, it's just like not as pure sort of the way to get into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this trade's going to be, or this trend, let's just call it as a trade. You know, stablecoin market cap right now is about 300 billion, maybe 280 or so, 270 in terms of total supply. I believe in. I think we're getting close to the 300 billion mark. I think we'll get to the trillion mark some point in the next like 18 months. I just like plasma, pseudo tether equity. Why do you need a token? Why do you need a new chain? Why is there ARC? Why is there stable? Like
because everybody wants to try to be the one. Yeah, there's going to be a rush of these things, right? And like you can either try to pick a winner or you just spray and buy them all.
Yeah. But like plasma at $5 billion for retail, I don't know. Like, you know, is this thing going to trade 50 billion? I mean, I don't know. It's just like
they already got 2 billion commitments, right?
What is the stable coin chain worth? You know,
if there's one, it's a hard question because like, is it one and is it only one stable coin? Like how did the fees accrue back? Like what is like the velocity? I don't know. I would say right now, if you put a gun to my head and you're like, all right, like there's one Tether stablecoin chain, like what's its valuation? I'd say like 12 to 15 billion. That would like sort of be like where I'd be willing to pay for it.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's absent knowing like what the mechanics are like even going to look like for how that thing like accrues value back.
Yep. Regardless, if it does feel like stable coins and as a result, their underlying infrastructure, wherever that may be, is one of the more sustainable sectors like going forward over the next 6, 12, 18 months.
As long as rates don't get cut into like, you know, by 2/3, you know what I mean?
But like those businesses grew big when like rates were low. Like they make less money, but like it's a problem for Circle because like they live on razor thin margins. Like Tether just has to like stop buying like dairy farms in like South America. Like it's like they're gonna be okay. They have so much money. They're just doing ridiculous shit with it. And I love those guys. Like I issued a ton of Tether back in the day when that thing first got started. I have nothing but love for that team. But like they have enough, like they're gonna be fine at rates at 1%. Like it's like not like they don't have a systemic risk to the business.
But some of the newer stable coins that are a little bit smaller that don't have as much scale and operate at thinner Tether's able to operate at thin margins. The other guys, if rates get cut, may not survive that.
Well, they're gonna have to cut materially like headcount, like get like costs down and stuff. But like
Can you tell us some more like ridiculous things about Tether? They're buying. I didn't know that they were buying dairy.
They did. They bought. Oh my god, I gotta look it up. They bought
a stake in Juventus, I think, or in one of the big soccer teams in the Premier League / FC, like a Spanish league.
Barcelona.
No, they paid $600 million for a South American farm company.
Yeah,
which like is like a dairy farm.
Knew that.
I mean, they can do this stuff. I mean, like how much they bought like a couple $2 billion with gold. I mean, like
in Bitcoin as well. Yep.
In Bitcoin. I feel like sometimes I feel like they're like, we just own so much of this Bitcoin stuff. Like we just got to buy some other.
Yeah.
Go look at the Tether jobs board. It's like all AI stuff. They're like getting into that too.
Yeah. Wow.
This is like the new bank of like the modern age.
Yeah, I mean, like at some point they got to diversify. Like it got so big.
Start issuing mortgages.
Man, the story that Tether had with Bitfinex back in the day, I used to read those Medium articles. Man, it's just so crazy how they survived this whole thing. I like to think that they were always above solvency, but I've got a pretty deep down feeling that I think that in the early years there was
they admitted they weren't when they
Yeah.
issued Leo.
Yeah,
Like they've copped to that.
Yeah. So, Dan, I think we just got a couple more minutes, and I know that you've been very open and sharing your time, and we appreciate that. Man, I think that like from my end, you've answered, and we've talked about a lot of things that I'm currently interested in. My main thing is like, what happens next? Like it's September, end of September, market's ripping. We got DATs buying. Like, are we topping soon? Is there a top cycle? Like, what the hell's going on here?
Well, so there's some pretty big TGEs coming up in the next month. So I think that's going to
Monad,
be
Plasma.
Monad, in theory, Plasma, Fogo. What's the other? Anoma's going out there. There's a bunch of stuff that's like raised a bunch of money that's like going to hit like the tape in like the next 30 to 60 days. So I think a lot of that'll like drive some volumes and some like interest. So we'll say Bitcoin's so big, it's just going to trade with equities. I don't think it's going to have like, it's too much idiosyncratic. Like it's just like trades like a tech stock.
Okay.
But do you see Bitcoin under 80K in the future?
Sure, why not?
Okay. Above?
I don't know. It's a volatile asset. Yeah.
I mean, just trying to, assess where you're at.
Like if you woke up tomorrow and Bitcoin was like 80K, you'd be like shocked. Like you'd be like, what happened? But like, would it be like, but would it be like out of your like realm of like possibilities? Like,
no. It's more of like, do we get to like 160, 180 and then go all the way back down there at some point?
Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
It's all well within like the path of that thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just to get an idea of like what your secular thesis is. Like, okay, so stable coins, right, are like a sustainable thing. What else? What other sectors do you think are going to sustain?
Yeah, I think the big L ones are going to sustain. Like, I think that's like there's enough things going on that's diversified that those are like going to maintain as businesses. And then like, obviously people like love to like gamble. So like, you're going to have some version of pump or that will go back to the exchanges, just listing tokens. And like, that's like the way it's sort of like, and then people are going to want leverage. So there'll be like people looking to like leverage trade. I think those things will all persist.
Yep. CMS, Dan, I'm going to butcher your last name.
Don't worry, just call me Dan M.
Dan M, thank you for your time. We appreciate you being on and looking forward to the next couple months in the market in just all these big TGEs, Plasma, notably, as well as the others. Thanks for your time, man.
Yeah, no worries.
Thanks, Dan.
Alrighty, guys. What a segment from CMS. Dan, great guy. Really, really in the know. He really knows what's going on. And yeah, guys, what a segment from Dan. Love the guy. Really, really good insights. Been a fan of Dan since, it's been since 2020. Really, it's unfortunate we didn't get to talk too much about some of the actual happenings in the perp world. But guys, that is it from us today. We will look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Huge days coming up for the roll-up. We got 2 big announcements coming tomorrow and Wednesday. Guys, we'll see you there. See you on the stream. Thanks for tuning in, and peace out, guys.